Over the years, well-intentioned advice has sent countless good foods into the cold when they should have stayed at room temperature. The result is the same story repeated in kitchens everywhere: bland tomatoes, gritty honey, mealy potatoes, wilted herbs, rubbery bread, and oils turned cloudy and dull. I'm Dr. Susan Parker, your guide today through the warm side of your pantry. My purpose is simple and practical: help you protect flavor, texture, and nutrition by keeping 9 everyday foods out of the refrigerator and show you exactly how to store them so they last longer and taste like they should. You don't need fancy equipment. You need clarity, a basket, a paper bag, and a little confidence. Let's begin with a truth most people feel but can't always explain. Cold isn't the same as fresh. Refrigeration slows microbial growth and oxidation, which is brilliant for many foods. But some ingredients are living tissues that keep breathing and ripening even after harvest. Others contain starches and enzymes that misbehave at low temperatures. And a few contain natural sugars or crystalline structures that change when chilled. In other words, a refrigerator is a powerful tool, but not a universal solution. Once you understand how each of these 9 foods behaves, your kitchen becomes easier, tastier, and far less wasteful. Tomatoes are first because they suffer the most in a cold box. A good tomato is a small symphony of aroma molecules, acids, and sugars. Below typical refrigerator temperatures, enzymes responsible for aroma slow dramatically, cell walls rupture, and the balance between tartness and sweetness collapses into a flat, watery experience. That's why a chilled tomato tastes like a memory of itself. Store whole tomatoes stem side down on a plate or in a shallow bowl at cool room temperature, ideally between 55 degrees and 70 degrees, away from direct sun. The stem down position protects the scar from moisture loss and microbial entry. If a tomato is fully ripe and you truly must buy yourself 24 more hours, chill it briefly, then bring it back to room temperature before slicing. You'll recover some aroma, but never all. For peak sandwiches and sauces, keep them out of the fridge until the moment you use them. Potatoes are next, and their issue is chemistry. At cold temperatures, the starch in potatoes converts to sugar, a process called cold sweetening. Fry or roast a cold sweetened potato, and you'll notice a too dark color and a bittersweet, almost burnt taste as those excess sugars react under high heat. Even boiled or mashed, the texture turns oddly gluey. The fix is old-fashioned. Store potatoes in a paper bag, a box, or a bin in a dark, well-ventilated place around 45 to 55 degrees, cooler than your kitchen, but warmer than the refrigerator. A pantry, cellar, or even the lowest, shadiest cupboard works. Never store them near onions, which speed sprouting. If a potato sprouts lightly, you can trim the sprouts and cook it. If it's shriveled and soft, it's past its best. Keep them dry, keep them in the dark, and they'll reward you with that creamy, fluffy texture you expect. Onions prefer distance and air, not chill and moisture. In the refrigerator, humidity condenses on papery skins and seeps in, inviting mold and turning firm layers into mush. Cold also pulls their sulfur compounds into sharper relief, so they smell stronger while tasting duller. Whole onions need airflow. Think of a wire basket, a mesh bag, or a perforated bowl in a cool, dark spot. Separate sweet onions from yellow or red if you can. The sweeter varieties have more moisture and spoil faster. Once an onion is cut, that's a different story. Seal the cut side tightly and refrigerate for a couple of days to slow microbial growth. Whole, uncut? Keep them out of the fridge and away from potatoes. They'll last longer and cook cleaner. Garlic, the quiet powerhouse of flavor, shares a similar preference. Refrigeration encourages sprouting and rubbery cloves. What garlic wants is dry air and steady, moderate temperature. Store whole heads in a small, breathable container, mesh, ceramic with ventilation holes or a simple paper bag, on a shelf away from steam. Avoid sealed plastic. Trapped moisture accelerates decay. If a clove shows a small green sprout, you can split it and trim away the sprout for a sweeter taste. If the clove is soft or brown, it's time to part ways. For ease in busy weeks, pre-peel a handful of cloves and store them tightly sealed in the fridge for a few days. But understand you'll lose some aroma. Whole heads kept dry at room temperature win every time for depth and perfume. Bananas arrive with a tropical passport that refuses to be stamped by the cold. Their skins blacken in the refrigerator as chill damages cell walls and disrupts pigment, while the interior ripening chemistry stalls unevenly. That's why chilled bananas can turn grayish and pasty. The better plan is to let bananas ripen at room temperature on a counter hook or a fruit bowl. Want to slow ripening slightly without chilling? Separate bananas from the bunch to reduce ethylene buildup and move them to the coolest spot in the kitchen away from sunlight. Once fully ripe, you can refrigerate them if you only care about preserving the interior for smoothies. The peel will darken, but the flesh will stay sweet. For most uses where flavor and texture matter, keep them out and rotate your supply weekly. Bread is comfort, and the refrigerator is its enemy. The process is called starch retrogradation. As bread cools, starch molecules recrystallize and squeeze out moisture, making slices dry and leathery. Chilling accelerates that staling. The paradox is simple. Bread goes stale fastest in the refrigerator, slower on the counter, and slowest in the freezer. For daily eating, keep a small loaf or a few slices at room temperature, wrapped loosely in a paper bag inside a bread box, or in a clean cotton bag, which allows a bit of breath while preventing the crust from going limp. For longer storage beyond 2 or 3 days, slice and freeze in a zipper bag, pressing out air. Toast slices straight from frozen. You'll recover a fresh crumb and a crisp edge. Avoid plastic on the counter unless your environment is extremely dry. Plastic traps moisture, softens the crust, and invites mold. Coffee, beans or ground, belongs in a cool, dark, airtight container on a pantry shelf, not the fridge. Coffee is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture and odors. A refrigerator introduces condensation every time you open and close the container, dulling aromatics and pushing volatile compounds to fade. Ground coffee loses its charm quickly. Whole beans hold better, but suffer the same fate if you chill them. Buy what you'll use within 2 to 3 weeks. Keep it sealed and away from heat and light. If you need to store coffee longer, freeze whole beans in small, airtight packets you'll open once. Let them thaw sealed before grinding to avoid condensation. Day to day, room temperature wins, and your nose will tell you why the moment you open the bag. Honey is a miracle of nature with built-in preservation. Chilling doesn't make honey safer, it simply accelerates crystallization, turning a smooth pour into a gritty mass. That graininess isn't spoilage, it's sugar molecules aligning into crystals. But it's inconvenient when you want a gentle ribbon in tea or over yogurt. Keep honey in a tightly sealed glass jar in a dark cupboard. If it crystallizes, set the jar in a bowl of warm, not boiling, water and stir slowly until it reliquefies. Never microwave honey in plastic. Use gentle heat and patience. Properly stored at room temperature, honey lasts essentially indefinitely. The refrigerator only gets in the way of its natural stability. Olive oil is the 9th food that prefers a temperate life. In the fridge, olive oil becomes cloudy and can partially solidify as waxes precipitate, harmless but annoying for pouring or drizzling. Repeated cycling from cold to warm also stresses aroma compounds and flattens flavor over time. What extra virgin olive oil wants is darkness, a stable cool room, and a tight cap. Keep it in its original dark glass or a stainless can near, but not above, the stove. Heat is the enemy. So is light. Buy sizes you can finish in 2 to 3 months. Freshness is a bigger factor in flavor than any label flourish. If your kitchen runs hot in summer, store a backup bottle in a cooler interior cabinet, not the fridge. Let the oil be liquid and luminous. It will reward your salads and sautés. Now that you know the 9 foods that should stay out of the refrigerator, tomatoes, potatoes, onions, garlic, bananas, bread, coffee, honey, and olive oil, let's translate knowledge into a pantry you love to open. Start with zones. 1 small basket for alliums, onions and garlic, with spaces between them for air. 1 ventilated bin or paper bag in the darkest corner for potatoes, separate from the alliums. 1 shallow bowl or plate for tomatoes, stem side down, where you can see and smell them. 1 fruit stand or hook for bananas, away from direct sunlight and separate from the tomatoes, since both release ethylene and will accelerate each other's ripening. 1 bread box or cotton bag on the counter for the loaf you're actively eating, plus a freezer strategy for the rest. 1 airtight, opaque container for coffee on a high shelf far from the oven. 1 quiet cupboard for honey and oils, cool, dark, and undisturbed. Take 10 minutes to set these zones, and you'll notice something subtle. You start using what you see and rotating naturally. When ingredients live where they thrive, your weeknight cooking speeds up because flavor shows up ready to work. Salt, heat, and acid play their roles, but baseline ingredients carry their own weight when you haven't dulled them with cold. It helps to learn the touch test for each. A tomato should feel heavy and slightly springy. A refrigerated tomato feels firm but hollow. A potato should feel dense and dry. If it's clammy or sweet-smelling, it's been chilled or has started to convert starch to sugar. An onion should feel tight under the skin, not soft or damp. A head of garlic should be compact with no gaps between cloves. If it rattles, it's old. A banana should ripen evenly, spotted with freckles when sweet. A chilled banana will show dramatic peel darkening and a dull interior. Bread should have a crumb that springs when pressed. If it snaps and crumbles, it's stale. Coffee should release a bright, complex aroma when you open the container. A muted or cardboard note suggests moisture or oxygen damage. Honey should pour with slow elegance. If gritty, it's just crystallized. Warm it gently. Olive oil should smell like fresh-cut grass, tomato leaf, or ripe fruit. A flat or waxy scent means it's been stressed by light or heat. There's also a calendar rhythm to master. Tomatoes. Buy twice a week in smaller amounts, so you always have ripe ones without resorting to the fridge. Potatoes and onions. Buy larger, less often, and keep them in proper bins. Garlic. Buy heads, not pre-peeled tubs, unless you'll use them within days. Whole heads keep their soul longer. Bananas. Stagger ripeness. Some greenish for later, some yellow freckled for now. Bread. Split and freeze half the loaf on day 1, room temp the rest. Coffee. Buy in 12-ounce bags rather than giant containers unless you're brewing for a crowd. Honey. 1 medium jar lasts. No need to stockpile in the cold. Olive oil. A bottle you'll finish in 8 to 10 weeks is better than a jug that sees too much air. Let's walk through a day where these choices show up on your plate. Morning coffee, ground fresh from beans that lived in a sealed tin on a cool shelf. The aroma is bright, not muddy. A slice of sourdough comes out of the freezer to the toaster, resurging as if it were baked yesterday. A spoon of room temperature honey ribbons into your tea without a gritty fight. At lunch, a tomato you kept on the counter yields with a whisper under your knife, its juice tasting like sunshine, not fridge. A thread of olive oil from a dark glass bottle glows the salad without clouding the mouthfeel. There's half a yellow onion in your basket, still dry and aromatic because it never sat in cold humidity. Potatoes from the pantry roast evenly, browning instead of blackening because their starch never turned to sugar in the chill. By evening, Bananas that ripened gently at room temperature become a quick dessert, creamy and fragrant instead of gray and tired. Nothing here is fancy. It's just storage aligned with biology. Edge cases matter, so let's handle them clearly. You brought home ripe tomatoes and the kitchen is hot for a heat wave. You can chill them briefly to buy a day, but bring them back to room temperature before slicing. You have a half loaf of artisan bread and a humid climate. A paper bag inside a bread box helps. If mold is common in your kitchen, freeze what you won't eat within 48 hours. Your pantry runs warm in summer, and you worry about onions sprouting. Move them to the coolest interior cabinet with airflow, never sealed plastic. Coffee for a special occasion that you won't drink for 2 months should be frozen in small, unopened pouches. Thaw a pouch sealed on the counter before opening to avoid condensation. Honey crystallized into a sugar block? Warm water bath, patient stirring, done. Olive oil turned cloudy after a cold snap? Let it sit at room temperature. It will clear without harm. There's also the human factor, habits, convenience, and the desire to put things away. The refrigerator is a natural parking spot because it feels safe, but safety that dulls flavor is a false bargain. Safety plus flavor is the real prize. The more you trust these 9 foods at room temperature, with the right containers and locations, the more your refrigerator space frees up for items that truly thrive there. Dairy, cooked leftovers, leafy greens, berries, meats, and cut produce. Your grocery budget benefits too. Fewer ingredients go limp before you're ready, and you stop buying rescue sauces to fix what cold flattened. A word on cross-influences. Many fruits emit ethylene, a ripening gas. Tomatoes and bananas are notable producers. Keep ethylene-sensitive items, like unripe avocados or cucumbers, away from high emitters if you don't want them to ripen too quickly. Conversely, if you want to ripen avocados faster, put them in a paper bag with a banana for a day or 2. Room temperature teamwork. But once an avocado is ripe and you're not ready to eat it, that is a fruit you can chill for a day to slow further ripening. Storage is not a set of rigid rules, it's a set of informed choices. The 9 foods we're discussing today simply perform better out of the refrigerator most of the time. Mindset completes the picture. Taste is your compass. If a method preserves safety but erases pleasure, it's not a win. Tomatoes that smell like tomatoes invite you to cook more simply. Olive oil, salt, a twist of pepper, and maybe torn basil. Bread that stays alive in the crumb asks for no more than butter and heat. Potatoes that roast sweet savory without burning make a meal out of a sheet pan. Coffee that wakes your senses turns a morning into a ritual worth keeping. Honey that pours gracefully reminds you why bees are alchemists. Olive oil that smells like a hillside opens the door to salads you'll actually crave. Storage either supports these experiences or steals them. You get to choose. If this feels like a lot to remember, reduce it to 2 sentences you can put on a sticky note inside a cupboard. Keep tomatoes, potatoes, onions, garlic, bananas, bread, coffee, honey, and olive oil out of the fridge. Give each air, darkness, and a container that matches its nature. Cold is for what wilts. Room temp is for what ripens and breathes. Once your kitchen reflects that, cooking becomes less about fixing problems and more about letting good ingredients be themselves. Before you head to the pantry, do a 5-minute reset. Take the tomatoes out of the fridge and let them come to room temperature. Decide to use them tonight in a quick salad or a pan sauce. Rescue the bread by toasting slices and freezing the rest. Move the potatoes and onions into separate ventilated containers and label one "No Fridge." Pull the honey from the door and give it a permanent spot in a dark cupboard. Rehome the olive oil away from the stove's heat halo. Transfer coffee to an opaque, airtight canister and promise yourself smaller, more frequent purchases. Hang the bananas on a hook. Bananas bruise less when they float. and keep them away from the tomato bowl. 5 minutes, 9 decisions, and your food starts working with you. As you taste the difference over the next week, you'll discover that these small, non-dramatic choices cut waste and elevate your cooking far more than any gadget. The best kitchens aren't the ones with the biggest refrigerators. They're the ones where the fridge isn't asked to do what a cool shelf can do better. From now on, let temperature be a tool you use intentionally, not a reflex. When you bite into a midday tomato that tastes like summer, when your toast crunches and sighs instead of crumbling, when your potatoes brown like they mean it, and when your morning coffee perfumes the room, you'll know the plan is working. If this guide helped, choose one change to implement today and another next week. Share your favorite room temperature upgrades with someone who still chills their honey and wonders why it turned to sand. And if you love clear, science-backed, practical food wisdom you can hear once and use forever, stay close. I'm Dr. Susan Parker, and I'm here to make your kitchen simpler, smarter, and a lot more delicious.